I got a really special guest here at the governor's reception room here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, at our state capitol. I got the legendary Vic Fangio here. Welcome to Harrisburg. Welcome to our state capitol, Vic.
Well, thank you, Josh. First time I've driven by this place a lot, but never been in it. So it's a thrill for me to come and visit with you here today.
I'm glad you're here. I'm going to give you the nickel tour after we talk. I'll show you around, and it's cool to have you and your family here. Your mom's here.
Yep.
And your mom still lives in the community where you grew up, right? Dunmore, Pennsylvania.
She still lives in the same house I grew up in. I think she's been there about 70 years.
Wow.
And lives by herself still and goes
Mom's
up and
98, right?
98.
Okay.
Goes up and down the steps daily, which is why she's lived so long.
That's right.
And things are good. She's still cooking. That's all that matters.
What's your favorite memory growing up in Dunmore, or memories, whatever?
Oh, there's a lot of them. You know, from the Little League baseball field was right next to my house, so I spent countless hours over there. And then get into high school and play football for Dunmore High School and baseball and just everything that went on there. Small town community, but everybody knew everybody and everybody was friendly, and a lot of good memories.
And you played every sport growing up, right?
Yeah, I did.
And how much Old Forge pizza did you eat? You got a favorite spot? Or?
Yeah, I think Ravello's was the best there, but we got good pizza in Dunmore too. We didn't have to always go there.
All right. That's good. So you played multiple sports in high school. You eventually coached your high school in football, right? Can you tell me about your transition to coaching there and how you're...
When I went to college, quickly discovered I wasn't good enough to play in college, but still wanted to be involved. And while I was in college, I actually started coaching with Coach Henz's, I think my junior year in college, and was actually an assistant to him for 3 years before I left. And those were 3 great years working under him.
Yeah. So you coached in high school, you coached in college, as you just said, and of course we all know you're a legendary coach in the NFL. What do you learn at each level? What's kind of different about each level? What's the lesson you take from each level and coach? Before we get into the birds and all your success in the NFL, like what do you pick up at each level coaching?
Well, I think one thing you pick up as you move up is the things you were emphasizing and teaching and drilling at the lower level still applies to the higher level. And, it's all about fundamentals. And obviously the schemes and the talent of the players is better and more sophisticated, but it's still the fundamentals, that carry you through. And I think that's one of the things we were excellent at this past year.
Yeah. So you mean the fundamental drills you're going through or you're putting your kids through in high school are actually the same drills used in college and the pros?
Some of them, not all of them. Obviously, we have more players, so we can run a more organized practice. Yeah. But some of those things still hold true. And
tell me one drill you made BG do that you made your high school kids do.
I didn't have the box drill going back when I was coaching high school, but we had BG do some box drills this past year, and it jumped on his back real quick.
I love it. All right, so everybody wants to talk about the birds. Everybody wants to talk about this great run. I actually want to start, though, at the beginning of it, and I'm sure you're not aware of this story, but Howie's a buddy of mine. And after last season, so not the Super Bowl season, the one right before that, birds come out, I think you're down in Miami at the time. Birds are, I think, 10-2, and then completely fell apart, lost in the first round. Philly's getting on Howie and Jeffrey and the whole, Sirianni, the whole crew. And I never want to talk shop with Howie, so I don't ask a lot about football, but I just said, hey, how you doing? And he goes, I feel really, really good. I'm like, you do? Because that was a rough run over the last few weeks. He goes, we got Vic Fangio, and we're going to build back, and we're going to be way stronger next year, and we're going to win a Super Bowl. But I thought it was interesting how he's always optimistic. But he didn't talk about a player. He didn't talk about a new scheme. He didn't talk about whatever. He talked about you. And he said, you were going to be the key to helping build this team back. So I'm hearing that from Howie, and I wonder what Vic Fangio is feeling right now, getting that call down in, I guess you were in Miami at that point, and knowing you're going to come back to the birds. Take us through that.
Yeah, actually, I called him and Nick first because I knew I was going to be leaving there, and they knew they were looking for a new defensive coordinator, so the timing matched up, and they didn't believe it at first. And I said, no, this could happen. So they were excited. I was excited.
Yeah.
I was excited to get back. You know, I like the people within the Eagles organization, Howie and Nick, Jeffrey. But going back to where it all started, too, because, you know, I grew up a Philadelphia fan in all sports.
Yep.
And actually worked for the Philadelphia Stars back in 1984,
Right.
the old USFL.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember that.
I sure as heck do.
And
Watching them at the vet.
at the vet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, where it all started for me in pro football, that's where it's going to end. And I was excited about that.
See, you get the call, you come back home, you get to put the Eagles green back on. But you also had to rebuild a defense, right? Defense had gotten old. They weren't, you know, putting up the kind of numbers they needed. They weren't playing great team defense. You went from having a defense that really struggled. We know where this ended. You had the best defense in the NFL. How did you just go through that process of thinking, how do I rebuild this? Where does it require new personnel versus a new scheme? How do you think about that?
Both. You know, one of the first things was with Howie, who I've known Howie a long time, and we have a good relationship. You know, and he knew this, but we needed some new players to inject into this defense, and you know, particularly in the secondary.
Yeah.
And you know, Howie's never had a history of drafting DBs high, and he did that in this past draft, first and second round, which is a credit to him. And you know, and then we added a guy in the third round, so we had 3 rookies that played significant time for us.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah. And then we installed the system. Luckily, I had some coaches that had worked with me before that I was able to get to join the staff. So there was some continuity there between the coaches and me, not with the Eagles, but in other places. And the players really bought in early and just went to work.
Yeah.
And, you know, we, ended up in the Super Bowl, obviously, and it became kind of a storyline that we didn't pressure at all or blitz at all.
Yeah.
But,
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that.
And we were a fundamentally sound team and just went back to making sure we were doing things the right way all the time.
Do the players have to come and play in the Vic Fangio system, or do you assess the players and go, I got to build the system that works for them?
Both. Obviously, you have to start with a system.
Yeah.
And then and the system has to be versatile to where it can adjust to any offense you may face or adjust to your own players.
Yeah.
And so it's both. It's a combination of both. You just can't go in there with nothing and see what the guys can do. We got to give them a framework. And from that framework, we can do almost anything.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about the Super Bowl and the no blitzing, but I actually got to ask you this. You grew up a Birds fan. I grew up a Birds fan. Dick Vermillier on. 5 players you would have loved to coach on the defensive side of the ball. Not players you're coaching now.
Yeah.
And I'll Reggie White, number 1.
Reggie's 1.
So you get 4 more.
Brian Dawkins.
Oh, B-Doc.
Bill Berge.
Sure. Wow.
Let's see. We got a D lineman. We got a linebacker. We got a safety. We need a corner, Eric Allen.
Yes. Okay.
And you wanted 5, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reggie's a mulligan because he's the GOAT. So throw him more.
He had a short career, unfortunately, in Philly, but Jerome Brown was a hell of a player for the couple years he was there.
Those guys would have been pretty amazing to coach, huh?
Yeah. I like good players. They make me look smart.
So speaking of looking smart, we know how the season went. I mean, the Eagles just got hot after that 2-2 start. Defense was clicking. I mean, I think you guys were number 1 defense for most of the season or for a good chunk of the season. You seem to have the right answers for every game. You go into the playoffs, you get that tough snow game, but you get through it and you get to the Super Bowl and you're going up against, I mean, maybe the best quarterback after Jaylen playing right now, but certainly the MVP and Patrick Mahomes. You got to come up with some scheme after 17 games in the season, a whole bunch of teams trying to stop Mahomes, Kelsey, et cetera. How are you thinking about that in those 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl?
Well, I think first off, we had to get a mindset with our players that what it would take to win this game, not just schematically, but emotionally and mentally. And we showed them some stuff from the previous year's Super Bowl where San Francisco lost to Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and some critical plays why they lost that we couldn't make those same mistakes. I went all the way back to when I coached in the Super Bowl in 2012 with the San Francisco, and we had a great defense back then, but we didn't play well early in the game. And showed them, well, I actually got the video from that game and showed them some of the mistakes we made in that game, which were elementary mistakes. Again, going back to you got to do the fundamental things the right way. And showed them those, and the guys over a 10-day, I say 10 days because we didn't really start preparing with the players until Wednesday or Thursday of the previous week, just kept working on their mindset.
Interesting.
To what it would take to play and beat these guys who, Mahomes is, I think if you ask 100 people who's the best quarterback in football right now, probably 99 would say, 98 would say Mahomes. You and I would say Jaylen Hurts.
Exactly.
And so it was a tall task, but it was doable. I was confident we could play good. Did I know we would play that good and or win the game? No, but I was confident we could play good.
But let me push on. It's not just mindset. You didn't blitz, which sounds crazy. I mean, I remember sitting there watching the game, and we're like halfway through the second quarter. I'm like, I don't think the Birds have blitzed even one time. And you consciously made the decision to try and keep them in the pocket, not blitz, not give yourselves up. You made that decision, 10 days out, 12 days out, 2 days out?
No. I thought going into the game that we could get good pass rush pressure on them, just rushing 4. Our guys exceeded that. We had pressures available that we could run, and I thought we would run in the game. But as the game unfolded, I just saw what was happening, and I wasn't going to do it because I didn't want to do it because Mahomes is really good at seeing pressure, dissecting it, and hitting somebody quickly. So it was good that we didn't need to. But we had stuff available.
If you needed to. All right, so shoes on the other foot. Could you draw up a game plan to stop Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley if you had to?
Oh, we stop them in practice all the time in training camp. So, yeah.
We'll have to ask Jaylen and Saquon about that, how they feel about it. You come through that game, you win. Do you get to sort of relax and enjoy the moment on the field and appreciate the confetti come down, this and that, or are you just so kind of wired from the game that it's hard for you to appreciate the moment?
I think with that game in particular, because the fourth quarter was just a formality for the most part, it wasn't one of those, down to the wire play here or there that you kind of knew for a while that you had this thing. And so there wasn't that big euphoria like maybe you just saw in the NCAA basketball championship game where down to the last second. So there was time to get there, but it really was enjoyable. You grow up and seeing teams celebrate. Yeah. It used to be in the locker room. Now it's on the field. But then we had a massive celebration in the locker room afterwards. And it was nice. I had Kathy on the field with me. Cool. My daughter, Cassie, and my brother, Dan, were on the field. I was able to get them on the field with me. So that was nice. They enjoyed that. And it was good. It was really everything you'd hoped it would be. But it was very satisfying, more than euphoric.
Yeah. So speaking of celebrating, that parade was unbelievable. Unbelievable, right? How many beers did you catch, by the way?
I caught a few. I didn't drink them, though.
Yeah. I was a few buses behind you, and folks were firing those beers at us. I remember thinking, God, I'm lucky I didn't get hit, and then I saw Howie at the end. He was bloodied in the forehead.
Well, the story behind that is in the parade after they won in 17,
Yeah.
the Eagles weren't allowing any beer on the buses. So the players were begging the crowd for it. There was beer on the buses this time. Hopefully there wouldn't be that throwing.
Yeah.
But there was still the throwing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was amazing, that parade. You get to, you feel the passion of Philadelphia. I see kids on their father or their big brother or their grandfather's shoulders.
Yeah.
Seeing that for the first time when they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. That's how stuff and the passion gets passed down. That makes a major impact on young kids. And now they're Eagles diehards.
Totally.
And I can't tell you how many people have thanked me in the last couple months, not just saying thank you for winning the game and championship. I mean, a heartfelt thank you, for the memories and what you've done for their families.
Yeah. I remember feeling that way as a kid when the Phillies won and Sixers won. I mean, you remember those moments. I remember being my dad and my brother and sister during those things. But I appreciate that you mentioned folks thanking you and appreciating you. I thought it was amazing to watch the way the crowd reacted to you. You're the defensive coordinator, not the starting quarterback, right? But there's this bond with you. People love you. How does that feel? I mean, you're going out doing what you love in the state where you were born, state where you were raised, for the team that you grew up rooting for. Folks know who you are. They appreciate you. They think you're a genius. And it's got to be an amazing feeling, right?
Yeah, I think number one, it's because we're very successful. But I think in the beginning, they gave me the benefit of the doubt, being from Pennsylvania, everybody knowing that I grew up a Phillies, Eagles, Sixers fan. They kind of see me as one of their Philadelphians when they look at me.
Yeah.
I still go to the same places to eat. When I worked for the Stars, which was 40 years ago, I go back there now. And I just think they saw me as one of them in a good way. And then obviously the way our players played and the success we had as a team pushed it over the top.
You ever imagine when you were on the sideline for the Stars, you'd be on the sideline for the Birds winning the Super Bowl?
No.
I mean, come on. You didn't imagine you'd have this long career in the NFL and get a few rings?
I'm a day-to-day, season-to-season guy, so now I have, but it's almost 40 years. You didn't go to the Stars parade in 1984?
I don't think I did.
We had a little parade.
You did.
We did. It was much on a smaller basis.
Yeah. Who was their quarterback? Penn
Chuck
State
Fusina,
guy.
Penn State.
Yeah. Amazing. I remember him. So, all right, you win the Super Bowl. You get this great celebration. People love you. You got to do it again now. You got another season coming up. You got the draft coming up. And I've noticed, right, you made some changes. Some guys who left. Howie always loved to tinker, and Howie we trust. Whatever the hell he does, trust. But does it make you, I mean, you win the Super Bowl, you're dominant. Isn't there maybe a feeling that I don't want to do anything? I just want to keep it exactly the way it is because we did so well this season. We're bound to do well again next season. Does it make you nervous to make change?
No, it's just part of the way it goes. I mean, I would have loved to keep all those guys, but in the NFL, the salary cap is real.
Yeah.
It's not phony and bendable like it is in baseball and basketball.
You pay a fee and you fine and you move on, yeah.
And you said it, in Howie we trust. This is his time of the year. He realized we lost 5 starters on defense and 2 of the top backups that we had for those guys. So we need to get better. And he's done that starting in the offseason. We got some guys. We have a draft coming. We have 20 picks over the next 2 years in the draft. And you say, well, what does that mean for this year? But you can always trade picks in future drafts. Not that he will, but it's there. And I think he'll be working hard at it to try and improve us that way. But if not, we have some young players that it's time for them to step up and see what they got.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to give us any scoop on who you're going to pick or who you're looking at. But I do want to ask you what it's like in the room as you're getting ready. And then once you're in that draft room, obviously you get the last pick in the first round, then you got a lot of picks after that. Is it tense? Is it fun? Is it laid back? What's it like? What's it like when, you're tracking 3 or 4 guys and they all happen to be on the board when it gets to you? How do you make that decision? Again, not asking you for any state secrets here, but just like, what's the vibe like? What's it like in there?
Those decisions are made prior to draft day. When you've got a clump of guys that are close together, they'll be ranked. And I think we're the only time where it can get semi-intense or tense in the draft room is when somebody calls and wants to make a trade, or you call and want to make a trade, and you've got to agree to that trade within 15 minutes in the first round, within 10 minutes in the second, and 5 after that. So that's when it can get a little intense. But as far as picking the player, most of the arguments, the evaluations, the rankings have happened beforehand. And at that point, it's Howie's decision.
So, but you've got a sense of, okay, here's all the guys we're interested in. Here's how they're ranked. If they're on the board when it's our turn, we're taking, because this guy's whatever, number 1 on our list, we're taking him. So it's pretty well mapped out. And it doesn't get nerve-wracking for you? You got a pretty good sense?
No, for the most part, no. But if it comes down to where I know it's going to be between this guy and that guy, and I really like one of those two, I'll let Howie know who I like. Doesn't mean he'll listen to me.
Yeah.
But I'll sure to get my last pitch in.
Yeah. Let me ask, kind of inside here, right? You go back to kind of where we started. You join the Birds after Howie says we got to rebuild, and Vic's the key part of helping us rebuild. You get here, you are hungry. You're psyched to be back. You want to win a Super Bowl. You just went through an epic season. You won the Super Bowl. How do you just like personally stay hungry? How do you personally stay focused?
Well, that's one of the first things we'll tell the players, or I'll tell them, is you got to stay hungry and humble. And if you like competition, you're ready to compete. And every year is a new year. Every game, every year is a new adventure. And I love to compete. I love to coach. I get my most joy out of seeing players improve as individuals. And if we do that enough with enough players, that means we'll improve as a defensive unit. Ultimately, the team improves. So it's the process, but it gets back to competition and teaching.
Yeah. When do you stop sort of thinking about the Super Bowl you just won and start thinking about the Super Bowl you want to win next year? When is that point in the calendar? Is it now? Has it happened? Has it not happened yet?
It's happened long ago. I mean, we had the Super Bowl. We won on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Monday, we fly back to Philly. Tuesday, we were off. Wednesday, the players came in. Thursday, we had the players in a little bit, again, for exit meetings.
Yeah.
And then
Then we had the parade Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
Had the parade. And then we were off for 10 days, I think. But once we came back to work, it's full speed ahead for next year.
It is.
With the comfort of, or the enjoyment of, or the pride of knowing what just happened.
Yeah. So you get the ring and game 1 and all that, but you're already thinking about the next one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we were driving on the bus from New Orleans to go to the airport to fly back to Philly, Howie happened to be in the seat in front of me, and he turns around, which one of these 3 guys do you want to keep the most? Because he knew we couldn't keep them all. So, yeah, it starts. For Howie, it even starts way ahead of where it starts for me.
Yeah.
He's always got to be thinking ahead.
Yeah. Do you, obviously you got to do all the different parts of it, the stuff in the office, right? Picking the players, doing all that, and the stuff on the sidelines in practice and the stuff on the sidelines in the game. Is there one part of it you enjoy more than the other?
I enjoy it all, most of it, all the same, but I do enjoy calling the game.
Yeah.
And schematically get involved with the game. And I try and make the best call I can all the time. And you need to be disciplined, like the Super Bowl. Now, we mixed our coverages up a whole lot, and you react to the game. You say you have a game plan going in, but, you got to react to what's happening. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy teaching players how to get better. I enjoy educating players on how to handle their money in their life, their personal business at times, kind of be a, I don't, the mentor is a strong word, but just an adult voice for them, an experienced voice. I enjoy the game planning part of it, where it's just myself and the staff. So the only negative is it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Time away from your family.
Yeah.
But a lot of benefits that come from that.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a lot of time away from the family, but, it also brings family together. I mean, my family, I've got a bunch of family 2-3 hours from Philadelphia in all directions, and they've made it to Philly a bunch this year. So in some ways, it brings it together, too.
That's pretty cool. I want to come back to something you said, and we'll wrap up here in a second, but you talked about not just the enjoyment you get on the sidelines, but helping these young men develop, helping them with their money, helping them with their lives, whatever. It struck me that with the college game the way it is, between not only the money they get from the NIL, which God bless them, they should get money, but the ability to transfer every year in that portal. The first time these talented defensemen ever are like kind of in the same place for multiple years could be on your watch with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they could literally hop around to 4 different schools in college, and then they get a contract for, year 2, 3 with the Birds. And so you're kind of taking the place of maybe what traditionally a college coach would have done when they played for that school for 4 years and they were kind of locked into a program. Do you sense that the players are different coming to you now from a maturity perspective? I don't mean how they play on the field. I mean how they kind of live their lives.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more of that. Better be able to answer that question in a couple of years, where there's been players that have gone through college for 4 years or 3, where it's the NIL. The players coming out last year and this year, it's about a year or 2 old,
Yeah.
But I think we'll really see it once in another year or 2 from now. But it is different. I think somehow the NC2A and the colleges, they're going to need some help from Congress because they can't seem to do it on their own.
Yeah.
And rectify the situation somehow, some way. It's
out of control.
It's out of control, and I don't think it's to the benefit of anyone. So, some smarter heads are going to have to come together and make some rules for everybody.
Yeah. When you're in that locker room and you're having that mentor moment with them, do you ever talk about the world around you? Current events. I'm not asking you to be political, but just kind of what's happening in the world. Are they paying attention to that, or is that not really
sometimes? If something major's happened that is a talking point, we'll talk. Could have a little chat about it. But I try and educate them about their money. I show them how much money they're going to actually bring home after taxes.
Yeah.
And after they pay their agent, and after they pay rent, after they pay for a car. And, a lot of the guys they've heard of taxes, but they don't know what it means. And then when they see their salary on the left and then what they net on the right, some of them are in deep shock.
Wow.
And so it's good for them.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're better off. They're better off because you're their coach. We're better off because you're Pennsylvania's own. And just so honored to have you here at the Capitol, and really just grateful for your work ethic and your dedication. Someone who tries to be a good leader every day. I get asked a lot, like, who's your mentor? And the truth is, I don't have any mentors in politics. I don't have one mentor. I look at people who are leaders, and I try and take a little bit away from each of them and help inspire me to, do a better job tomorrow than I did today, and so on and so forth. So you're a guy who inspires me, your work ethic, your leadership qualities, and we just really appreciate you and appreciate knowing you're Dunmore's own. And I guess I'll give you the last word here, not so much to me, but to the people of Dunmore and the people of Pennsylvania. What do you want to say?
Yeah, well, I agree with you on the mentor part of it. I don't think it's anybody's responsibility to mentor anybody. You have to observe and learn from others and develop your own philosophies, work ethics, schematics, whatever it is. I agree 100% with you on that. And, you know, like I've said many times, I've not lived in Dunmore since 1981, I believe. Might be 82, but it's still home for me, and it always will be home for me. And it's nice to go back every time I go back there.
It's cool. Well, we're glad you're here today. Thanks so much, Vic.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you.
Okay.